Ren Fair fans. My name is Victoria Van Arnam.
And I'm Nicole Skelly.
And I'm Olivia Harding.
And today on Ren Talks, we have an extra special guest, Kaitlin Chin. Hey,
hello.
Kaitlin. Hello.
Hi.
Wonderful to have you. Now, at the end of our first episode, we talked a little bit about solo female performers in the Ren Fair, but also about circus performers and kind of the influx of that world merging with Ren Fair. And we're excited to have you on today to talk a little bit about that and about what you're doing in your world with the wonderful plague pivot that we've got going on. And, you know, just all in a sundry else from there. So yeah, so how is Circus Life right now?
First of all, thanks for having me on. This is super fun, and I'm really glad that you guys are doing this. Second, Circus Life at this time is just starting to become a thing again in terms of being able to train, unless if you own all of your own equipment. And people are just starting to have in-person gigs again, which still kind of freaks me out. So I haven't really done any in a while. But it's very slowly turning back into a thing, and people are finding ways to adapt and to do the COVID pivot for like circus performances specifically. But I think because of that, we all have started moving more towards side hustles or finding ways to develop additional things and ways to use our skills that are outside of just in-person performances and like education.
Absolutely. You were on the Digital Ren Fair a couple months ago. I remember seeing you on there. That was a super cool performance. You were able to do kind of like a video of your silks.
Yes.
Also, not quite side hustle, but in my opinion, dream hustle. Did I see you were a mermaid recently?
Yeah, I've actually been working with the Circus Siren Pod for 2 years.
Oh!
Yeah.
So that's not a plague thing. It's just you're a mermaid all the time thing.
Yeah. I don't do it as much because if it came to me choosing between my various universes, I would pick circus over mermaiding, which sounds kind of awful, but the skills tie into each other. I come from a heavy swim background, and I spent a lot of time on the swim team and doing things like that when I was a kid. And so being able to move into also mermaiding was nice and straightforward. It's like you just add on to the skill set. And so it's something that I do literally is like an additional side hustle. But the cool thing is, because of COVID and because of needing to isolate and do things like that, I've had time to do a lot more mermaiding stuff that I didn't used to be able to do because I was always on the road and doing shows and things like that. So,
are you physically close to the tanks, to Morgana Alba and the whole pod up there?
Kind of. I live the furthest away from anyone in the pod. I'm about 2.5 hours away from where she's located. The major festivals that we do are the PA Ren Fair, and so that one's like, I go there and back every day, or did before. We're not there this year because COVID. But used to, I would just drive the hour and change to get out there because I live in Philadelphia, so that's where I'm coming from. But in terms of doing like the shoots and things, we actually have had a very strict protocol where what we do is we all get tested and then quarantine until it's time for the shoot. We all travel to the shoot, do the shoot, and are able to like interact in a pod safely that way. And then from there, go about our normal COVID-esque lives.
Awesome. I saw some promo for a calendar coming out from the Circus Siren Pod.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I haven't even seen my final things yet, so yeah, I have no idea.
I'm really excited about that. I think that's going to be super awesome, and I'm always stoked to see. I've heard we're going to talk some about the mermaiding industry before, and it is just absolutely incredible and such a deep, like, there's a lot there, and that lady is just like, she is pushing that sucker forward, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah,
so,
it's nice. It's actually really good to be working with someone who is very in the same way that I am, very performer forward, very like this is a lifestyle choice, and this is not like something that people can take advantage of you or be able to just like, you know, oh, you're going to do it just because you love it. It's like, no, this is a career. This is something that I'm choosing to do. And you need to respect the work that I do and the time that I've put in and the money that I've invested. Same as we've all fought for other things. And so not having to, like, for all of us who are in the pod, not having to be the one who's like pioneering that is like, yes. And she's so good at it. So yeah.
Right? Yeah.
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 It's so
that lady
awesome
is hauling. Oops, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So awesome to be able to be like, I trust this person to do all these things for me and get this workspace and get me what I'm worth, or, you know, instead of having to do it yourself, but also, so it's a load off of you, but also you have a person that you can trust, and it can be so relaxing to just be able to like, I swing in and I know what I'm supposed to do.
Yep. Just being able to show up and like, I'm here to do my job. That's what I do. Yeah. And also like being able to trust somebody with transparency. That's like in terms of my business, my life, that kind of stuff. I'm overly communicative with all of that kind of stuff. And she's very much the same way in terms of like, these are the expectations. This is how much money you're going to get paid. Here's what I need you to do on a daily basis. Here's the schedule. Like, you know, like, you know, all of that going in. And I think that's really important in terms of like ideals for people that you want to work for, ways to create workplaces, and how to feel like your time is respected, and just ways to communicate effectively with people and not needing to be like, hi, I just wanted to send you like 80,000 text messages about every little thing, right? You know, there's levels. And I think collectively the pod has also been very much like, we were overly communicative in the beginning because like it's a team, right? And the pod has grown over time in terms of the number of people, but we've also grown in terms of like how we're able to communicate with each other, and make sure that we have the most effective workplace space for us that it's possible for there to be. And so that's another thing that you have to be able to, like, that has to be cultivated.
Mm-hmm. I love how many varieties of different successful business models there are on the circuit, because you get a little bit of everything. Because, well, almost all of us are contractors for a festival. Like, you might be an employee if you're on performance cast, so if you're a local member, depending on the festival. But most of us are contracted by the festival. But then within the business itself, for example, we've got Victoria and Nicole, who I'm assuming are sole proprietor business owners or individuals. Then I'm part of what's called a general partnership, which means all three of the members of our group are completely 33.333% owners. But it's not as like official as an LLC. And then I know we were talking, Kaitlin, about how you own your own business, but then also have workers that look up to you as well.
So I'm like, I hope they do. I used to send out anonymous surveys after events. Like, we would have these large scale where I'd be hiring like 125 performers for stuff. And I would be like, I genuinely have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to working on this scale. And this level of intimacy with like actors, right? Because normally when you talk about performers on that scale, it's like you're either, because you're an entertainment director for Renaissance Fair, you work for Disney, or you're on a film set, right? And those are like kind of the exclusive moments of those happening, with the exception of immersive theater and large scale immersive events. And I was very lucky to be one of the first, I had to be like, I was one of the first people, but like being able to be one of the first people who got to just sort of dive in head first, working large scale, what we would call immersive events, as opposed to smaller sized attractions that are meant to run people through, like a haunt, right? You know, and so you have very specific locations that people move through versus like a large scale world that people just interact with for a very short time, like a 1 or 2 day span event. And so I would literally send out surveys to be like, this is totally anonymous. Tell me how I can do this better. Because there's no manual for this.
Yeah. It really sucks, though, timing. I mean, like, just in general, like, whoever wants a pandemic, but the timing of COVID specifically for theater, because I've been saying for the past 10 years that theater is veering in a direction of becoming way more personal and upfront, and mostly because, like, we're having such great art on TV that people can go and see all the time. So theater has to give you something like a skin-tingling experience, and a lot of that is immersive. And like I've worked at Sleep No More, and I've done a lot of like the.
Did you really? I didn't know that.
I say worked. I volunteered. I worked in the prop department for weeks and weeks, and was paid in sandwiches and tickets to the event. So this was when I was in college, but amazing, super cool. Anyone who's ever in New York and has squillions of dollars to spend should go and do it once it's back up. But it's so tricky because that's exactly the kind of stuff that you absolutely cannot do unless you do it on a very small scale during COVID. And I say that because I have seen, for example, I saw something online the other day about someone who's doing a like 5-person tea shop, like troll tea shop, I think in Texas, where you sign up, you come with your pod, your group, and there is one server, and like there's some sort of distance between, and the server is the owner, and like I think you can make like special like potion drinks and then go on special quests, but it's quite expensive because it's an extremely personalized event, but it's only a few people at a time to keep it safe, so that somehow keeps the business model in check. But it's tricky otherwise.
That is something that has happened is immersive experiences suddenly got a lot more expensive. Just because you can't do it for large scale groups. You can't do it for, like, you have to find very specific venues and spaces that it's okay to do those things in, and you have to be able to adapt whatever content that you have to that space. So it's a huge undertaking.
That's pretty wild. So your company is Cirque de Nuit, and
yes.
You're doing a lot of kind of prep work and things right now, getting ready for some launches.
Yes.
Or you're just, you know, like, because we all are, you know, that's the thing. I'm in the middle of a complete rebranding. Nicole is like ramping her streaming all the time, and Music the Gathering is having a gathering nowhere near each other, ever, in the woods with nobody there. So
harking back to the first episode.
Yep. From a distance.
From a distance.
We're getting good at technology. We're getting really good at technology. And
yeah. Speak for yourself.
Man, my college IT background is really coming in handy nowadays, guys. Like, I'm thriving.
My minor was in philosophy. It did not prepare me for any of this.
I can't remember if I said this in any of the past episodes, but I'm going to say it again if I have, Victoria. I think you are so impressive. The fact that you went from, I'm going to turn on... First of all, you were the first person to know what Facebook Live was way back when this all started. Our very first Florida Renaissance Festival live stream. You can see... We're probably going to cut it, but you can see me going, Victoria, which button do I press? Help, help. And she was like the only one who knew how to do Facebook Live. And then fast forward a couple months... And she's got foot pedals attached to her freaking cameras and a way to have her comments appear on stage, and a little dancing Victoria comes out every time someone presses like. And I'm looking at it and just be like, what?
Right? It took me like 10 minutes watching her live stream to be like, how did it change angles? She didn't, she's holding the hammers. Her hands are near the strings. She didn't push a button that I didn't notice. Who else is there with her? No one, wait a minute. Took me 10 minutes to figure out.
When I did the digital Renaissance Fair stream, like the actual streaming thing, and then going through, like, you guys were like, we're going to do a sound check. We've got the video check. And I was like, I don't even understand what's happening. I'm going to send you the video, and then I'm going to sit here and wait for someone to tell me what to do, because this is like so far beyond my skill set right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it's such a different skill set, and people are like, oh, I feel so bad, I don't know how to do these things. It's like, of course you don't. You've never had to. This is nothing. This is not related to anything. You know, people don't realize that they just have to look in the settings till they find what they're looking for. You don't realize that you just have to click things and that it's not going to break the whole thing until it does. And then...
Important distinction.
Unless you're my grandma, and then things are just wrong all the time. And
oh,
no! So, that's why I'm here. But,
no, you can't, because you can only tell a certain age of people to just click things until it breaks, because we got my parents a new smart TV a couple years ago, and 2 days later they're like, how come it only shows the children's channels on the guide? And I was like, what did you do? And they were like, well, we couldn't figure out how to do it, so we just pushed buttons. don't just push buttons. Now I have to call the cable company and figure it out, 'cause I don't know how to get it back either.
So you put the kid lock on.
Right?
That's impressive. Accidentally putting the kid lock.
To be fair, though, I did, so not the car that I currently have, but the car that I had before this. It turns out that there was a speed lock available on that car. Yes, I speed locked my car. I could not go above 70 miles an hour.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I had to go, and it was like, I don't even understand how I did this.
You did it on accident. I thought you did it on purpose.
Yeah, like
No.
for insurance reasons, you know, like for safety, driving,
Yeah.
happiness.
No.
It's interesting that they don't put. I mean, I love the fact that they don't get me wrong, but it's interesting that the cars go above like 190 miles
Right.
per hour in this country.
It is.
That is a thing,
Yeah.
which is confusing.
Drive safe, folks.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Use
driving,
your turn signals.
Sorry.
Dude, I live in South Philly. Turn signals. Turn signals. I'm fine. I don't have big feelings about that. It is not a big mood.
I've always said that instead of road rage, I have road disappointment, and it's usually around turn signals. I have strong feelings about turn signals, and so someone in front of me, I'll just be like, you know what would have made that turn so much easier? Putting on your turn signal. It's such an easy little step, my friend. And I just get like really patronizing, and I just wish they could hear me.
My friend Liz will be like, selfish choices. Like if someone cuts her off, or if they're like, you know, whatever, they do bad driving. She's like, you're being selfish. And I'm like, now I do it instead of all the swear words. I just say selfish. Yeah. Sometimes they say the B word, but.
Asian Mark and I have a thing where in order to prevent ourselves from getting angry at someone who's just did something extremely stupid, we try and empathize. And the way we do that is that if they do something fast or crazy, you just look at them and you go, maybe they just really need to poop. And then you just feel a little bit of empathy towards them.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that better than sometimes I'm like, maybe they're having a baby.
Yeah.
But I like the poop one better.
Maybe
That's
there's
more
fire ants in their car.
relatable.
Maybe there's fire ants in their car.
Did you know that fire ants eat carbon? Like filters?
Oh,
Also,
eat carbon filters.
Fire toys.
Interesting.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you know, like fire toys, they have the stuff that's on the
The
end of them.
wicking?
Yeah, the wicking. Like, whatever this is made of is also the same thing that those carbon water filters are made of. You know, the really expensive ones from Berkey.
No, I'm an
And-
actor. I do not know the really expensive ones.
Okay, well, they exist.
No, I don't know those. It's the same. It's the stuff that they put in vests, bulletproof vests.
I don't know. Anyway, we know this because when it rains in Georgia, the ants come up into your vehicles. And they make little houses in your cars that you're living in. And then they get into all of the parts of your car, and then you think that you've got them all gone, and then you drive, 6 hours up to North Carolina, and then you find them in your water filter when you try and get water for your drinkums. And it's all ants are everywhere.
That just kept getting worse.
This is, I feel like, linked into two things. We were talking about, like, speaking of, like, driving, and I was going to say, how do we all travel on the circuit? But this also links into what kind of crazy bugs have you met on the circuit? Because because I, for example, we used to travel all in one car, if you can believe that, but I now have my own car and I do the Airbnb thing, which I'm very lucky about because I feel like that wasn't a thing when people, like when Renaissance festivals first started, like unless you had buddies.
Definitely
you could
not.
just like find houses to stay at everywhere you went. So I either have like friends or I have Airbnbs, But I could fill a book with the interesting experiences I've had. Like, there's the normal, like, just, like, you show up at an Airbnb and it's ant season and there's just, like, ants everywhere and you just have to, like, go to town with the raid. But I think one of my favorite was South Florida. I got such bad karma. So 2 years in a row we used the same Airbnb. Lovely place, except for this reason. Asia and Mark come to my room and they go, Olivia, do you happen to have little wings all over your room? And I said, no. And I go into their room and it looks iridescent. It looks like it's got like fish scales everywhere because there are little translucent wings everywhere. And then it turns out they would like try to turn down the bed and there would be these little squirmy dudes. And it took us so long to figure out what it was. I did so many Google searches. It turns out it's termites. That termites shed their wings and like mate or something. But just like coming into your room and seeing it suddenly shiny for no reason, got that sorted out. And then there are the stuff that I'm actually used to because it's what I have going on in my house right now. The like soldier stink bugs that are like in Pennsylvania as well, everywhere.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
I carry those all over the country.
Yep.
Those just come along with you.
Know what they are. They're like maybe like that big. So they're like a decent size. And they're kind of cool, like shield-shaped, little dudes. And they sound so loud when they fly.
Oh my god.
So
It's
loud.
It's a lot.
But they get in everything. And so when we leave Pittsburgh, they're everywhere. But one of my favorite stories ever is somebody on the joust team said that he was being a little cocky on the joust field, like trying to do very smooth movements. So he like basically like started accelerating his horse as if he's pressing a pedal, I don't know what the actual term is, while grabbing for his helmet from his squire to sort of like make it look fancy, like I'm going and I'm putting my helmet on. Puts on the helmet, realizes the entire inside is lined with bugs. Can't spook his horse, like doesn't want to like cause any sort of thing, so just has to run the joust just face full of stink bugs.
Oh no. That makes me viscerally upset. That is
I have
like
goosebumps. Like, ugh.
That's no good. That's no good.
We're all gonna think about this when we go to sleep tonight too.
Yeah.
Thanks for putting that out there.
It's spooky season.
Nicole. Oh my god.
I didn't start this, stink bugs. It's not my fault.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that's true. Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for putting that in the brain hole.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
It's funny because like, so I have a very weird relationship with the outdoors. This is something that I keep telling people and they're like, yeah, but you work at Renaissance fairs, you're fine, right? I'm like, no. I very specifically chose festivals that accommodated my needs because I do not like mud. Like it gives me anxiety. Like it makes me feel like I'm gonna throw up kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like it's substantial. It's like a thing, right? And so it's something that I have to like kind of consistently be like, I'm struggling with this as a weird thing that I have. And so part of why I do SoCal is because it's in California where it doesn't rain as much, and everything's sandy. There's sand, not mud, and that's great. Like that's really good for me. And it's a dry heat, and so that's much more comfortable. And then in the past, we've done the Carver King Richard's Fair.
Oh, so
right?
much mud.
So much mud. We are on a stage. That's the only show that I've ever done where we're on a stage. Yeah, I wear boots and I just don't look down.
Oh my goodness.
Like I'm like just like walking around like this. Yeah, that's a more stressful show, but also being on, the East Coast, like on the Cape in the fall kind of makes up for some of that because it's really lovely. And they also have dragonflies. There's like these beautiful dragonflies, and that's the one bug that I'm actually kind of okay with. I have thoughts on spiders. They have paws. They wear water droplets for hats. I'm like, okay, don't touch me and we'll be fine. But like dragonflies are cool and everything else can die.
Did you say that spiders have paws?
Yes, they do. Yeah, they have like if you look at little close-ups of their feet, this is literally how I deal with bugs. Is I'm like, I need to turn them into very small, angry cats.
Shout out to Twisted Spider.
Right?
Yeah. 100%. Thanks, Rebecca. Mwah. Love you.
Slide that one right in there.
Yeah.
Just
King Richards. I that's where I first met you, Kaitlin. And
Yes.
I was deeply impressed with you. I mean, deeply impressed in general because what you do is obscenely talented. But then on a smaller level, because you can't do what you do while bundled in 1,000 pieces of clothing. Like, I'm guessing it's very, very difficult. So I was wearing maybe like 8 layers at King Richard's, and I was cold. And I would go and see your act and be like, how is she breaking apart into tiny little ice splinters right now?
Magic?
I believe it. I would 100% believe it.
And also, like, honestly, there's some really incredible insulating layers that are made by, like, I don't remember the company that made my nude tights, but I have a set, like a couple sets of these nude tights that are fleece lined. And so it just looks like my thighs are very muscular when I wear them. Like, just very muscular thighs because they're a little bit bigger. And but then the upper body, you just kind of deal with it. And we would get those reheatable because it's my show partner for that festival is Megumi. And so she and I would literally, like, we get the little reheatable packs and the those single-use hand warmers and just stick them everywhere. And then you get really warm right before the show. And so if you ever watched and would see me before I would come on, because Megumi would start the show, or like we do a duo at the beginning, she would start the show with the first solo, and then I would have like 4 minutes of not doing anything. And in 40 to 50 degree weather, that's a very long time to be just standing. And so I'd be like we didn't have a backstage area per se in there, but we had this funny little cubby that were stairwell, like a stair going up, and then a little platform where we would put our speakers and stuff. And I'd just be back there doing squats, just like boop, 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 and that's how I would stay warm, is just doing squats. And because once you start, you warm up very fast because it's extremely physical. You're using your whole body the entire time. And the goal there is to beat the cold before it gets to your hands. And if you can beat it before it gets to your hands, you'll be fine. If the cold hits your hands, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'm done now. And so we would have, we essentially had bail strategies for every scenario, more or less, because when you're working with an outdoor show, as all of you guys know, but also when you're working with like a high stress prop that is dangerous and stupid, you need to be able to figure out every contingency. And so we, dealing with rain, dealing with cold, dealing with someone running up and doing something dumb, we had ways to save each other, and we had ways to just make sure that we could gracefully exit from whatever we were doing and just come right down and be able to be like, and that's the show. Thank you all so much.
And that's silks that you're talking about, right? You're talking about, so you do the full aerial silks. Do you do the Lyra on?
So I don't do it on circuit,
Okay.
Because that starts to get into dynamic stuff. Like in terms of me doing a full show, I'd want to be doing dynamic work, and I don't feel comfortable doing that without a safety system and being able to have someone who's there as a rigger. And like, there's a lot of other things I would need. But in terms of my skill sets, I do silks, which is my favorite, Lyra, dance trapeze, I have an aerial moon, I do lollipop Lyra, stuff like that, so it's fine. You have to, in circus, you end up having to kind of diversify because there's so many people who are so good at it, that unless if you're literally like that level, you have to be able to do pieces of everything. But silks is still my favorite, so yeah.
And I know that festival, they actually have a really great relationship with like local houses where they like set you up so that you can have affordable housing in the area. But I'm curious, all three of you actually, what you do traveling around to different festivals. Like if you have, if you find housing, if you bring it with you, how that works.
I'll start. That's fine. I have opinions. So I used to have a 19-foot trailer, and I loved it. I loved my little baby trailer. It was great. It had a full bathroom and shower in it. It had like a full-size bed. It had a like tiny kitchen that had a 3-burner stove on it and like a double sink and like tons of, it was amazing. This trailer was amazing. And then I sold it, and I sold the truck that towed it, because I was like, oh, well, I'm only really doing 2 shows. There's no reason for me to have a trailer. There's a part of me that's like, why did you do that? That was so dumb. But also hauling a trailer for 2 months to California is not smart when you live on the East Coast. Like, it's not cost effective. It would cost the same amount for me to literally stay somewhere. And so that's what I started doing. And I'm super fortunate to have done California for long enough to, and to have made enough contacts and friends that there's a group of us that all stay together in one friend's house, and it's really fun. Like, it's really fun because I stay with a washing well wench, I stay with a bird guy, I stay with an admin, and then we all like know people, and so we all like hang out and have parties, and like people come over, and then we're like, oh, hey, look, here's this baby falcon. I'm gonna just put it right here in my coat and like. Yeah. And so every falcon that my friend has gotten, I always give him the bird a really dumb name. And okay. I'm like, is my sound okay?
No, we're all in anticipation of what names you've named them.
Yeah. So the first one was Shriek, because he was a screamer and he would like sit on my head and just yell at people, and he like, you could tell when he was getting kind of antsy, and then Will would be like, Kaitlin, you have to take your bird out for a walk. And I would literally like put him on my head and go walk around outside, which is not good bird training things. People like, just across the board, that's not how you're supposed to train birds. It was me situationally in that one moment, and that's how I dealt with that bird. But so I ended up spending a lot of time with baby falcons, and on my Instagram there's like videos of me just like hanging out with this bird. You know,
getting your Disney princess on.
Yeah, drinking whiskey, hanging out with a bird, being a weird off-brand Disney princess. So
yeah, like you do.
Yeah. And then in Carver, we would all, it's always in groups too. So I've definitely stayed with a couple of groups out there as well. And that's always fun. Like having time to get to know other acts in a way that is outside of their on time. Right?
Totally.
Yeah. Two of my favorite people are Mike and Steph from the Misadventurers. And so we've ended up living together quite a bit. And it's really funny because Mike really likes flavored coffee and none of the rest of us do. And Mike's always the first one who wakes up in the morning. And so he'll make this like 12-cup pot of flavored coffee. And we're all like, dude, no one else likes it. Make a tiny pot. Then we'll make regular. And it's still like, with love. But we would all just like... Yeah. And so things like that. And like, Mike is amazing. They're all amazing, but just being able to spend time and be friends in a way that is outside of work because you genuinely enjoy spending time with them, creates a different bond and a different relationship than what you would normally have from like just people that you see in your workplace, even if it's a really fun, awesome workplace. Even
seeing people backstage, just seeing them on site is still completely different than like off-site, out of garb, on a Tuesday at the laundromat.
Yes. Yeah, or like making dinner. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say that I roomed with Mike and Steph when we did King Richard's, and I'm impressed with them because, you know, you have to be very, some of us have to be frugal when packing for the Renaissance Fair. Sometimes we'll only have one car. They have a lot of props, but they managed to fit so many board games in their car while traveling around, which was a total joy to me because they invited me to join their board games, and I learned like 8 different board games during that season that I hadn't learned before. Did you ever play the Harry Potter board game with them? Yes. Did you die a lot when you got to absolutely. Year 7, year 6 and year 7? Just like we kept losing over, and it was bad. Like we played one day of just like dead. I was like, how is this happening? I seem to remember they tried to, like, they wanted to introduce it to me at a higher level because that's where they were, and then we died, and they're like, we should make it nicer for Olivia, let's like make it and I think we like back a level or something like that, and then also died. So yeah, there was a lot of death involved. It gets really hard. Like you get up to the higher years and you're like, what happened? It's like the books, things get dark. Yeah, they do. Rough. It's rough.
Brutal. Speaking of so rooming, Liv and I had like an awesome rooming thing. So you said you were with the Washing Well Wench and Falconers and guys. Liv and I were with Crack Show and a Fairy and the rest of her band. And so like we had like a premium, there was glitter everywhere. so much glitter. We had a really, really awesome time in, that was in Pittsburgh a year or so ago as well. But I usually use Airbnbs as well. I also have a van that I can camp and live out of. So we're kind of like like it's a different experience, like living off of site versus living on site. I like the times that I get to live on site. I get to live on site at Georgia and Florida, and there's a couple other fairs that I will stay on site, and like it's such a different experience with that. And Nicole, where are you normally?
Mine's all around. It depends on the show. In Arizona, Louis and I live in a trailer that he has that just lives on site. At Scarborough, they house us on site, which is amazing.
Do you live above the King stage? Where do you guys go?
Scarborough, no, we lived above one of the temporary stages, or I'm sorry, one of the, the temporary booths, or the guest booths. No, the guest booths up by, next to the Falconer stage.
Oh, okay,
right up by there.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was like this huge room where like we could have a bed and like we got racks to hang clothes on and a kitchen table and chairs and plenty of space for me to work out or do yoga. And then right next to us was Gordy Boudreau and his family. And he's got 2 kids, Ollie and Annie, and they're just the sweetest, kindest, smartest kids. And they were totally respectful of our space too, because there was like a little like balcony that, you walk up the stairs and there's a little platform for both of our doors. And we'd have our door open all the time, but Ollie and Annie would just like kind of stand in our doorway until we were like, oh, do you want to come in? Like they would talk to us until we invited them. And I was like,
Aww.
That's a little thing, but like that's such good manners. And so we got to hang out with them a bunch. Maryland, I stay with my friend Liz. Virginia, I usually hotel and then stay somewhere else during the week. And like Great Lakes is 4 hours from my house. So I drive up on Friday and hotel and drive back on Sunday night, no big deal. And then I just started Airbnb-ing last year when I did Florida fairs in November, because I got 2 weekends at one and 1 weekend at another. So getting an Airbnb, which is nice.
Talking about Ren Fair children, I feel like it's a good thing that people watching this might not understand like what a beautiful breed Ren Fair children are, people who grow up on the circuit. Like they are so diversified in all of their knowledge. Like we were joking around at Florida about the Jackdaws children because I think the youngest one was going to start school for the first time. And we were joking around that he would show up and they'd be like, what did you do this summer? And he would be like, well, I rode bareback on a horse and did a bunch of tricks with my uncle. And like, they know all these skills and they just end up being just really intelligent. And because they're raised by a village, sort of just like aware of human interactions in a way that you don't expect. And you see it when they grow up as well. I remember my friend was studying, she was getting her master's at Cambridge, like in the UK. And she was going... I say that because like lots of people are like, Boston? I'm like, no. But she mentioned the story to me that she was going to tutoring sessions with a girl who at first she thought she might like be religious or like maybe like Mennonite or something like that, because she always wore very long skirts, had her hair down to her waist, like very interesting clothing choices. And then finally they got to talking and it turns out that she's a Rennie kid, that she grew up like on the circuit, traveled her whole life, and just like that shows you how intelligent and like clever these children can be, that then she's just like, I'm gonna go get my master's at Cambridge.
I think one of the things for me that I've noticed, and it's one of those things that I actually value really highly in a person, but resilience, right? I think Rennie kids are resourceful and they're very resilient because they have a non-traditional way of being brought up, and also very much like because you're not like in a house, you're not in the same place, you don't have the same consistent friend group or family group at all times, you learn to adapt in ways that you wouldn't otherwise do. And then also parenting on the festival circuit is like, oh no, mom and dad need to go work, like there are things that are happening right now that you need to be able to just handle, like we need you to handle this, and the kids are like, oh, Oh yeah, okay. And like that's the thing is if you give them the chance, if you give children the chance to grow and stretch in that way, they will they're like cats, you know, they're water. They just fill the container and do amazing things. And they also still have space to grow and play and like be around other people and have crazy experiences that are really exciting and different. And I think that makes for a very resilient children, young adults, and adults. And
just to be clear, so spiders are like cats. Ren Faire kids are like cats?
Yeah, water is like everything is like cats.
Water is like cats. Gotcha.
I have a cat named Loki. He is like a cat as well.
Okay.
Good.
He's not actually a cat, even though he is a cat. But he's like a cat. You're welcome.
Good.
Yeah.
What's the craziest haul you've made? What's the craziest haul you've made? So I'm pretty lucky. I don't have to do those major like Yeets across the country, but I go to I do from Georgia to Colorado sometimes, and that's a scoot. And then I did Ohio to Texas in an Ono. So like that's like a 2 days. Like next weekend, one weekend Ohio, one weekend Texas, and then to Florida. Like that was a brutal, but that's like not like one whole thing. That was like a sort of.
I touched on this in episode 1, and someone asked about it, saying they wanted to know more about it. But my craziest haul was the very first one I ever did. So luckily, I thought it was normal, so I wasn't like, "What the hell are we doing?" We did New York to Oregon in I think 5 days in a 4 days, but it was a 5-person car, 5 of us. Pulling a horse trailer full of all of our equipment. And what I actually love about it is that the way we packed, I think this was actually on the way back, the way we packed the trailer is that we had these skeleton props, and the skeletons were pushed against the window of the horse trailer, but we forgot about it after a while, so people would pass us and like honk at us and like make weird gestures, and we'd be like, "What the hell are they doing?" And then we'd be like, "Oh, the skeletons, it's the skeletons."
That's amazing.
But that was the first time we met Mark, my bandmate. And so he was forced into our company by taking a 5-person, 1-car road trip across the country with us. So we were either by the end going to murder him or welcome him into our family.
Trial by fire.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 really kind of crazy ones. The first one is when I drove from Philly to Arizona. And that was because I was doing the Arizona Festival, and then had to fly home to renew my driver's license. So I flew home. I didn't have my car, and picked up my car, which was a Ford Expedition, right? So like big boy car, and drove in 3 days from Philadelphia to the Arizona show. That was rough because there was like one night that I just didn't sleep at all, and there was another night that I was like, I'm just gonna like take random sporadic naps in the back of this car. I'm like, I do not recommend anyone ever doing that. Like, it's a terrible idea, and especially to do it on your own, which is like, and I found this super random gas station that had butterbeer, and so I bought like 4 of them. Yeah, and then I was just, and like there's so much sugar in those. I don't actually even like the way it tastes. Like, it wasn't great. I was just like, I'm just gonna sit here with like my butterbeer and hope it gets me through. And so that was what I did. The other one was not actually during like a festival. That's not true. It was this tiny little 1 weekend festival down in Texas. And what happened was they hired my performance company, and like not Kaitlin of Dracu, they hired Kaitlin, the owner of Cirque du Nuit, to bring a fire show and an aerial show. And so I pulled from like all Philly performers to come and do this, and it was just the 1 weekend, and we also were like completely booked in for gigs for other stuff. Like, I was booked Wednesday, Thursday. We had the show Saturday, Sunday, and then we had another gig on Tuesday night back in Philly. And so drove down, arrived super late Friday. They put us up in a hotel, bless them, and like got us a bunch of rooms. They're like, here, be comfortable. It was amazing. And So we all like stayed in our hotel rooms and just like drank a bunch of wine and cried from being really stupid and thinking this was a good choice for us. And went and like set up in the morning, did 2 days of shows, and then that night went out to dinner, got in the car, drove back. And this was where, so there were 5 performers. I have a Jeep Cherokee, right? And so in this Jeep Cherokee, there were 3 people and a rig and all of the fire performance stuff and all of our like suitcases and like random things and costuming and like all that stuff. So we're like in there. There were no skeletons pressed against the window, which would have made it like really, that's not what happened. We were not that clever. So we drove down, me and one other gal who were sharing the drive schedule, and then flew in the other performers, had them take a bus to the town where we were, picked them up from the bus station, and then flew 2 other performers back out and made the other 2 sit in the car with me. I was also going through a breakup at the time, so I was like a hot mess. And I'm driving, I'm like, everything's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I don't have any butterbeer. It's fine. Yeah, so that was probably the worst haul that I've ever done.
You talking about the hotel reminded me of a fun story. I think I mentioned that I started out, Greatest Pirate Story was an off-Broadway show, and then we did some like theater tours with it along, like simultaneously while doing Renaissance fairs. And we did one theater tour where I think Kaitlin, you actually know this guy, David Anthony from 3 Pints Shy. He was going to be one of the performers, but he had something going on, and so we had to fly him in separately, like right before the show. And the hotel that we were being put up in assumed that meant that he was the star. And so they gave him the nicest suite in the hotel. So we were like, fantastic, that's where we're going to rehearse. And he is amazing. Like, anyone who ever meets him will understand that, like, this guy is one of the most creative guys. He's a preschool teacher, so he's just got this brain that works in these amazing ways. So I show up to do our little mini rehearsal in his suite, and I knock on the door, and the key card to get into the door is slid underneath the door, and I thought, what's going on? And so I use it, and I open the door, and as I open the door, there's like weird ritual chant music, like, oh, it's like echoing, and I notice that his phone is in like the ice bucket being amplified, and he's playing this weird, and then I turn, and there's a giant pillow fort that this man has managed to make using the suite's like many couches in the past 10 minutes. And like he has this light, because he's also a photographer, so he set up a bunch of lights inside to like line it. And I look in, and he and Asia are just like sitting there with like glasses of water with ice, just staring at me. And I'm like, all right, I'm glad I've been invited to this exclusive club.
That's amazing.
Quick question: where did he put all of the photography stuff if he flew in? Or does he just like poop out lights?
It might be that he didn't actually have any of his like actual like camera equipment, but he had some random like LED lights just in the bottom of his bag.
Yeah, okay. That totally makes sense though. That super tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, let's not talk about the inside of Kaitlin's car and all the things that you can find in there. Right?
Yeah. That's part of traveling. That's part of traveling and like doing gigs, whether you're going for a long period of time or you're just going for a weekend. There's always extra something in your car. Like sometimes they don't even take my boots out of my car because I'm afraid I'm going to forget them next time I go to another fair. Like that's my second biggest actor's nightmare is that I've forgotten my boots.
What's your first?
Oh my God. I've been having a lot of these recently, which is annoying because I'm not even performing right now. So, but it's, I don't remember where I parked my car, but all my costume stuff is in it. I didn't curl my hair. I don't know what my show times are, and I can't find a program. And even though I know this festival, they've changed the stages, and I don't know what stage I'm on. Or I had one last week where I got to my stage, and it was my time, and there are these two other guys. I don't remember who they were, but I know them in real life, who were in like sweater vests and ties, not in garb, and they were like doing a show at my time, and then I was there and I was like, well, I only have 10 more minutes. And then I show up and the audience is like, they kept getting up and moving, and then Barely Balanced showed up, and they're like, we're going to set up now. He's like, I still have 5 minutes. And they're like, you're cool. And they just started setting up, and I was like, I hate everything. I'm going to get fired.
My job, my only job in Music the Gathering, no, but one of my jobs is to make sure that all the rechargeable batteries are charged for our stuff. And I've had miserable, like there have been 1 or 2 cases where I've like left either all the mics behind at where we were staying, or like the batteries, and I've screwed up a couple times to the point where I'm now like obsessed about it and like a little anal, to the point where I'm going to preface this by saying that I have a healthy relationship with alcohol. This was just a one-night mistake where I got very drunk one night and at 3 a.m. realized that the batteries had to be taken care of, and like went running out to try and find the batteries that I assumed I left in our car so that I could charge them. And got into the car, was searching around, and I was like, what? And then Asia came and found me in the street, and she goes, what were you doing? I was like, I was trying to find the batteries. I have to charge the batteries. The batteries need to be charged. She goes, but the car's locked. And I went, then what car was I in?
Oh my gosh.
So it's like, it's enough of a nightmare, these batteries, that like I can be like happily dozing after a whiskey-filled night and be like, the batteries!
And then break into another vehicle.
Okay, I keep having story. Like, here's the thing though, is when you are on circuit and you're doing shows and you are a solo performer and you're in a small group and everybody has responsibilities, right? You end up, through a process of discovery, understanding that there needs to be like a checklist for a reason, right? There's a reason for that kind of stuff. We make rules like in our own minds for a reason for that sort of stuff. Like, for example, once I forgot my costume. I forgot my whole costume, whole thing. Now, fortunately, this was at a festival where we only lived like 20 minutes from site, right? As opposed to like, so at the LA show, we live an hour away. I forget something an hour away, it's gone. It's gone. You cannot save that. You're not going back. You need to go buy something from someone and you will figure it out, right? Like, that's what you're going to do. Because I've definitely like watched people backstage be like, oh my God, I forgot my bodice. I'm going to go buy one. That's what I'm going to do.
I've done that. I have legit bought an entire like underdress and overdress and just been like, all right, rip my paycheck. We're done. That's just it. I look like this now.
Yep. That's what it is. And that's what you do. And fortunately, I've never done that. Like, I've never been far enough away that I've had to buy stuff because I genuinely am unsure what I would wear aside from the velvet tights. And then just like, nothing.
I mean, that's a show right there.
It's a different kind of show.
Different rating, but it's a show.
So it's a family show. So there's that, and that I was fortunate enough to be close enough that I could leave and go get it and then come back. And so I went up to the entertainment director after a morning meeting and I was like, hey, here's what's going to happen. And this was at a show where we were very supposed to, like, very specifically in the contract, you cannot leave site between the hours of this and this. And there was probably a reason for that rule because someone dumb did something dumb, like the dumb that I did. And so I went to her and I was like, I did a dumb thing. I did a dumb, and I have to go be dumb and go, and like, so I'm going to sneak out and then I will go get my costume and then I will come back and be here in time for the first show. And like, they were very specifically like, you need to be doing stuff at opening gate. That's part of our shtick is everyone's there. And I was like, fortunately, there's 2 of us. Yeah. And so Mukubi was a real trooper and she was like, I got this. You're dumb. Go get your costume. Except she's much more polite than that. She was like, And so I went and like got my costume, got dressed, and then was there for the end of opening it. It was like, it was all fine, but it was just one of those moments of like, real stupid.
What was everybody's process in building what is now their costume? Like, Victoria, you have a very distinct look. I would love to know like how you built that image.
Definitely, yeah.
Aw. Thank you. Yeah, it's guaranteed for the most sun coverage humanly possible.
Smart lady.
Yeah, think like sub-Saharan, like out in the desert, gotta wear a bunch of linen and you're just gonna be covered head to toe. Like that's the situation. So for folks who haven't seen me before, I've got a big honkin' hat. It's a big straw hat and it's propped up on top of a turban. And you can't see my hair. So that's the other thing, is that like I had my hair showing for a while and I was like, oh, hair so cute. Oh, so red hair. Oh, cute. And then it started not looking so cute. And then I was like, oh no. And so I have a big braid because I've always wanted long hair too. And so this is my chance to have long hair. And for anybody who's read the Sword of Truth series, you will know that ladies have long hair. And I'm a lady. So I have long hair. And so turban covers the hair piece. My braid comes down, and then I've got a white linen underdress that's actually very comfortable. Like if I have the overdress off, like it's just a bunch of fabric, and I'm in it, and it's great. And then I have a overcoat that's by Heroes Haven, and it's really lovely. I have two made by him, and it's based off of a gauzy coat, but I have adjusted it. I've removed, like in ballet, you have no armholes in a lot of your costumes, even though they should have, or not armholes. Like there's a hole in the armpit because I move around so much, and I need to have like the most movement. And also, did I mention I perform at a lot of Florida fairs? So
let the air out.
Let the air out. Yeah, there's a lot of holes in my costume, and you just can't see them. But because even in November, you're just baking. Like there's no hope. It's not. It's only slightly less like fire. And then I have big honking socks.
Fire. Sorry, I'm so sorry. What were you saying? I apologize for that. I'm good. Wait, tell me what. I will see myself out. No, I'm attached. Okay, that's not my move at all.
I've got some socks and then I've got some boots because I spin around and I realized that you could see way too much of my legs when I spun around, especially when the stage is up here and the audience is down there, and it's the sight line and the spinny. Yep. Got that one on camera. It's okay.
But you wear like shorts.
Everything's okay.
Victoria was the one who introduced me to long socks rather than leggings. I remember one day in Florida I was dying and she just goes, "You're wearing pants? Why are you doing that? Why are you wearing pants?"
No, honey.
It's an illusion. It's only one. It's only one.
And she looked it up and showed me. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's a show. Yeah. And Gwendolyn, yours is like an amalgamation from a couple of things, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it before, but part of the reason I like Renaissance festivals is I love the 16th century and I love the look of that. So, my costume that I'm wearing right now is the same one I had for the Seal Sisters, when it has a very square neckline which is very Elizabethan, and, like the partlet, the split skirt and all that. But, in the Seal Sisters show, my show partner and I, the final climax of the thing, the whole premise was we were fighting over who's going to marry this one guy first. Audience volunteer dude. And the final climax of the whole thing was this big fight where we ripped each other's clothes off and ended up in like a partlet and a corset and little ruffle butt bloomers. And so it was like, oh no, we're naked in the 16th century. Not really. And it was never it wasn't a sexual thing. It was like, you're my sister and I'm mad at you, so I'm going to pull on anything I can grab. And now all of a sudden, oh crap, we're naked. What were we fighting about? Oh my God. So I kept all of that stuff basically because when I went solo, I didn't have the money to get another costume made. And it worked.
They're expensive.
It fit. Yeah, they can be. Yeah. And I get mad too, because I can make my own. And I don't. So I'm like, I don't want to pay someone to do it when I could do it my own, but I'm not doing it. So I should just pay someone, but I could make it. So why am I not maybe I'll make it. No, I didn't do it. I had a month off. I didn't do it. Maybe I'll just get some. And it's just constant back and forth, two voices in my head yelling at each other. Plus finding finding like a good green color is the most difficult thing. A lot of green colors are drab olive green or they are limey green. And I want the green that's on road signs. That's the green that I want. So I also haven't found like a vibrant emerald Kelly-ish green, and I have not found fabric that will work. So that's why I don't have a new one. But yeah, so my costume is still the same. Like instead of lacing up the front, it like snaps open. So it's like a vest that snaps open, and I wear a corset underneath it, even though now I don't need to because no one sees it. But I like keeping it for the shape, and it, you know, makes me feel, so I like it.
Lifted.
It's like this one's for me, this corset, because like I like corsets and bodices because once you lace those up, if they've got enough boning, like you don't have to worry about like your like muffin top on your pants and like something coming out the side. You just stay in it, and it's just so, you don't adjust it. It's great.
Well, and the difference between a corset that's like made for you or is fit properly, and like a well-made corset versus like the cheap ones that you get for $15 from Hot Topic are like huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Oh my gosh.
Totally.
Yeah. I have a custom leather corset from my steampunk days when I performed in a steampunk band, and that thing, like the key is like it is fit for me, right? And so it can be, because laces in the back, so how you tell if a corset is good or not are the boning pieces in the back where it laces together, are they parallel or not? If they look like this, you done got one that don't fit. If they look like this, then you're fit right, because that means that it's pulling in from your sides correctly, and that's how they're supposed to look. Mine can be either this far apart or that far apart, and I am so comfortable in it. I can't breathe when they're this far apart, but like, you know, it looks like I've got that shape no matter how tight it is on my body. Because sometimes I'll have like I'll have my skirts tucked into it, I'll have all sorts of ruffles and mess like coming out from the bottom, and so it like can be really close together or really far apart in the back, really loose or tight, and it's fabulous, and it looks good no matter how little or more I can breathe.
Can I drift into PG territory for a second?
Yeah.
Victoria is hesitant.
It was wearing a bodice. By wearing a bodice, I never noticed this in any like normal modern day clothes, but by wearing a bodice, I discovered that I am definitely uneven, like most women. Because I have one friend who likes to come out to play above the bodice all the time, but the other one behaves itself every single day.
Huh.
Yeah,
What?
it's an interesting discovery.
That,
And it's a custom-made bodice, so it's not like it's like fitting ill. It's just like one side of me is different than the other.
one side's like, what's going on? Hey guys,
What's going on?
Hey, I just wanted to say hello.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ren Faire fans. I've been Victoria Van Arnam, and I perform as the Lady Victoria. You can find me on Facebook at the Lady Victoria. I stream every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time.
And I'm Nicole Skelly, and I perform in The Gwendolyn Show as the Gwendolyn part of The Gwendolyn Show. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch under Gwendolyn Show.
And I am Olivia Harding. I play Liv the Druid at Music the Gathering, and you can hear more about us at Music the Gathering Band on Facebook and Instagram, or at musicthegathering.com, our website, where you can also find trading cards representing figures from across the Renaissance Festival circuit.
And I'm Kaitlin Chin. If you want more information on me and my show, you can find me on Facebook if you just search for Kaitlin Chin, and also Dracu the Show, and my Instagram handle, which is the Chinster.
That's brilliant. Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Bye!